On the edge of a small Midwestern town lay the Miller family ranch, a place where George Miller, an aging and weathered farmer, poured every ounce of his energy into the land. He had one son, Ethan, who was the polar opposite. He detested physical labor. Ethan much preferred to stay indoors, relaxing on the couch with a video game controller or scrolling on his phone, avoiding the demanding work of the acreage. One early morning, as George was getting the tractor ready for the day's tillage, Ethan finally dragged himself out of bed. He watched his father, noticing the deep lines of fatigue etched on George's face from the constant effort. George looked up, saw his son, and said, "Son, I need you out here today. The irrigation pump is acting up, and we have a lot of acres to cover. I could really use the help." But Ethan quickly groaned, "Dad, I'm wiped out. I've got some stuff I need to catch up on. I'll be out later." Disappointed, George just nodded and kept working. He spent the entire day under the hot sun. When he finally returned to the ranch house late that evening, exhausted, he found Ethan asleep on the sofa, the TV still buzzing. George woke him gently and said, "Ethan, you need to learn to carry your weight. Lazing around isn't doing you any good, and it certainly isn't helping the farm." Ethan, however, just shrugged. "Dad, I'm just not wired for farm work. I like to take it easy." George sighed, the frustration mounting, and walked away in silence. One afternoon, as George was fixing a stretch of barbed wire fence, Mr. Johnson, a seasoned neighboring rancher, drove up. Mr. Johnson said, "George, I've heard about Ethan's lack of commitment. You can't inspire him to put in the work." George leaned on the fence post, weary. "I try, John. I tell him every day, but he always finds an excuse to avoid the grit." Mr. Johnson advised, "George, you need to make him understand the importance of sweat equity. He needs to see how that laziness will cost him everything he owns." George thanked the elder rancher and promised to try again. Ethan's chronic idleness became a source of deep worry for George. Ethan spent most afternoons hanging out with friends in town or streaming videos, while George battled the fields alone, trying to keep the family legacy afloat. One day, George tried to appeal to him, "Son, come help me bring in the first corn harvest. The yield looks decent, and we need the cash flow." Ethan replied, "Dad, I'm beat. You can handle it." George said, "Ethan, your help is crucial. We're already dealing with overdue bank payments. If we lose this harvest, the bank will come calling." But Ethan scoffed, tuned him out, and went off to hang out. George was deeply discouraged, knowing Ethan's attitude threatened the ranch's future. Then, disaster struck. The regional economy tanked, and the Millers faced the very real threat of foreclosure. On top of that, a devastating heat wave settled over the county. Slowly, the cornfields began to wilt and dry up. George, frantic, approached Ethan. "Ethan, look at the crops. They're failing. We have to act now, or we will lose the farm, the house, everything." Yet again, Ethan dismissed his father's plea. He was too caught up with his friends to worry about a little heat wave, oblivious to the deep concern consuming his father. One sweltering day, George, worn down by stress and heat exhaustion, collapsed and was hospitalized. Left with no choice, Ramon was forced to manage the ranch. He was terrified. He had never done this much work in his life. But then, he remembered his father's steady voice. "Son, nothing replaces sweat equity on this land. You get out what you put in." Recalling those words, Ethan started working the ranch. Initially, he struggled immensely. His muscles screamed, his hands blistered, and he was constantly fatigued. But he refused to quit. He pushed himself to fix the broken irrigation line, check on the dehydrated cattle, and salvage what little corn was left. Slowly, the results of his labor emerged. He saw that the cattle were stable, the fields were recovering in the irrigated sections, and the property was clean and orderly. One evening, as Ethan was working late, fixing a piece of equipment, his father, George, came home from the hospital. George was overcome with pride to see his son working under the floodlights. He told Ethan, "Son, seeing you work like this, I'm so proud. I know it was tough getting started, but you've finally seen what that effort brings." Ethan felt a rush of satisfaction mixed with deep regret. He finally understood that success was earned. He apologized to his father. "Dad, I was a complete slack-off. I ignored your wisdom, but I get it now. We can only reach our goals by putting in the hard work." George embraced him, saying, "I'm thrilled with this change, son. You've shed your laziness and stepped up. The ranch is recovering, and the future is back in our hands. Your success is purely a product of your own grit." Ethan took his father's words to heart. He understood that without effort, nothing worthwhile could be achieved. He gave up his idle ways and continued to work the fields, and the dividends of his labor became apparent to all. The people of the town were impressed by Ethan's dedication. They praised him, saying, "Look at Ethan Miller. He completely changed his tune and is now a respected rancher." He earned his way back. One day, the mayor of the small town came to the ranch. "Ethan, you've made an impressive turnaround. We are all witnesses to your hard work and responsibility. You've taught us that anyone can bring positive change to their life." Ethan acknowledged the mayor's words gratefully. He now understood the steep cost of idleness and the inherent value of hard work. He vowed to always remember his father's lessons, determined to continue progressing in life. Thus, the story of Ethan Miller's laziness became a tale of sweat equity and success, proving that any individual can transform their life and secure their future through relentless, honest effort. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, drop a comment with your favorite part, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories. See you in the next one.